Time.
Yeah, there. It looks like we're good now. Maybe some things will start flowing. Who knows?
Maybe.
I mean, we
We can only hope, my friend. We can only hope.
can.
Yep. Yep. There we go.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, well,
Got it.
good. Good. Seeping into the night. Get the flow.
Oh,
Get the
yeah.
gravity
Yep.
of the
Nighttime is
flow,
definitely a thing.
people. Yes.
Good evening out the internet.
Evening, peoples and compadres.
Another Wednesday night fun night with Scuba and the Ry. I am, of course, Steve, aka Scuba, and of course, Ry.
Ry Guy here to report on the action, which is nothing. No action, but suspense in the night.
Maybe a little noir kind of
Ooh,
fun. Yeah.
ah.
It is episode 116 of Scuba and the Ry, your Wednesday night of entertainment, movies, and random shenanigan conversations.
Shenanigans.
So yeah, let's dive right into it. It's been a busy day, man.
It has been, at least in some sense of the word, for me.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, it's spring break for you, so you get to sit around and do not much anything except read books.
Read books. So even when I'm on break, I'm still reading those books for class, on top of a lot of other things.
Okay.
So did cookout with my cousin, and then the next day did Korean barbecue with my cousin at a local place, Korean 757, which is great. Been playing lots of Elden Ring, just because spring break means I could get a little wiggle room of some gaming.
And you're just a glutton for punishment. I mean,
well, it's a
we know
mixture.
this franchise is not about the casual gamer. You have to
No.
be pretty dedicated to be playing this stuff.
Well, it's a mixture. When they say Elden Ring is the most accessible of the demon type games, they are telling the truth, because the open world allows you to freely navigate and build up your characters and find things that can help fight against monsters. Yes, the monsters are hard, but they're not difficult to the point to where they're just difficult to just mess with you. Like, you gotta be smart and strategize. Like, there was one boss I fought, which took me a good 3 hours, but that's because I was trying to figure out a good strategy to take him down, and I did. So, yep. And the best thing is multiplayer can be your friend and it can be your enemy. But especially when you're fighting bosses, multiplayer is your friend.
Let's hope so. Oh, everybody's dogpiling in to help beat the boss versus they're just coming in just to make your life miserable.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen to me. Lost once, won 3 times, because when they invaded my game, I had a co-pilot, so it was 2-on-1. So hey, it's always good to have that. But yep,
I like it.
Catched on a lot of watching. Breezed through the Vikings Valhalla series, the sequel series to Vikings on Netflix. 8 episodes. Was a very good sequel series, and it does set up for more to come with the main characters, especially Leif Erikson. If you know Leif Erikson from Norse mythology, you'll know where it might be heading. And called a second film on top of the one we'll talk today is Drive My Car. I said I was going to start catching up on 2 of the Oscar films that I missed. First one was the Japanese film, which is on Prime Video. Makes it easy, just rent it real quick.
Okay.
It's a indie drama. It's more like a slice your life, drop in, and you just follow this screen actor, director, this stage play actor, director who his wife passed away, so it follows him in the aftermath of that, where he is picked up to direct a stage play in Hiroshima, and it's just kind of, you just watch life is. So it's really good dialogue-driven, heavy character film. So if you like that kind of stuff, check it out. But yep,
I can dig it.
that has been my wrap-up so far. What's been happening with you?
Oh, well, aside from work being like forever, it's starting to quiet down a little bit, so I'm recovering some sanity. This week's been a little brutal. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a little brutal. But I'm trying to take it as a learning point, as a way to improve and grow.
Well, it's always good.
And not feel like I'm totally screwing things up. But I mean, it happens. You can't every day can't be a winning day. Some days you gotta feel like you're losing a little bit, just so you can appreciate the days where you can win more.
Yes.
Doesn't help my anxiety.
No, it might not.
I can fake it. Was it? Went out with some friends. A friend of mine, he came into town to celebrate another friend's birthday. So we got together on Sunday and went to Japanese steakhouse. The kind where it's like you sit down and they cook right there in front of you, and
They cook everything and do the flips and the volcanoes and all that stuff.
All that stuff. Went there. I hadn't been in one of those in years and years and years. And we took my daughter, because she was gonna be left home alone because my son was out working or whatever. So we took her along, and it was an experience. It was definitely an experience, definitely great food, and definitely one of those. It's like, oh my gosh, because what we did is they do the thing where like you can order the meal, and each meal is like between $35 and $50.
Yep.
Per person.
Yeah, it happened.
Not counting drinks, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and I decided, it's like, man, they give a lot of help. They give a pretty generous helping. I don't know if I want to do a whole meal by ourselves. Then, I got to look at that money, We got to look at that money.
Yeah.
So they do a thing where you can split a meal, and they just add an additional $5 to for the bill, which is like, okay, I could go with that.
Yeah.
I can go with that. And my friends some of them each got the same meal that me and my wife split. And we both ate our food and felt full, and they were all taking food home. And so it's like, damn, that is a lot of food. But we decided that we did the special that had the shrimp and the lobster and the filet mignon.
Hey, that's worth the price right there.
The fried rice, all that fun stuff. So I mean, it was good. It was fun. I mean, it was a little crowded, and it was like, so thinking about this whole post-COVID type of thing, it was like figured to be a little bit more room, but no, it's 8 of us around the table. Not at
the Japanese steakhouse. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think they could have got away with that social distancing that much, but had sake for the first time that I can remember.
Is that the first time you've had sake?
I believe so. I can't remember.
Sake is one of my favorite drinks of choice.
A friend of mine got it, and we split the bottle between 3 of us, and it wasn't bad.
Oh yeah, I can down me a good bottle of sake. So smooth.
Yeah. We got a Mayflower in the chat. Haven't seen her in a while. Glad she's back.
She's been hiding in stage plays and rehearsals. That's what she says.
Oh yeah. Likely excuse.
So, of course, excuses from you, May, but it's okay.
No, she messaged me, said she got in for the high school production for, was it Mamma Mia?
Mamma Mia, Mamma Mia.
So she's working on that, which is great. I mean, do the thing. Nice to have theater peeps.
That's always a good thing.
So, but yeah, and then of course Sunday morning it was go and watch The Batman.
The Batman.
And my friends, I already bought my tickets for my wife and I to go watch it. My friends, they were going to do the dinner and then go watch The Batman. But it's like, oh, I've already seen it. I already had plans to see it that morning. So you guys go enjoy. Heard some of their reviews afterwards. And it was like, okay. But I knew I was keeping quiet because that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about Batman.
It's a Batman themed show. Everything Batman tonight.
All kinds of Batman stuff. So yeah, it'll be fun.
The Dark Knight.
So let's head on out and kind of get into that. So yeah, let's start with our movie review, and then we'll get into our other conversation bits and bobbles.
Batman theme tonight, people. So get ready to fly in the darkness, in the vengeance.
Okay, so obviously this is the latest interpretation of the Batman in the Batman films, which ironically I was reading an article earlier last week, and Batman has been done live action 23 times.
That was an interesting number that you told me, because I couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, the first one was in the 1940s. It was a black and white serial.
Yep.
And then, of course, the Adam West and then all the other feature films. But this is the latest one from Matt Reeves as the director. And this one is I think, probably one of the more refreshing takes.
It's refreshing, a more unique blend of storytelling with the lore.
Yeah, I like how this is a very this is grounded in the sense that you're not going to see a lot of the fantastical superhero world events like we've seen in recent Batman films.
Yeah.
Dawn of Justice, Justice League. You know, some of those were like these big kind of major and fantastical moments.
Yeah.
This one's a little more down down on the streets, so to speak. It's got a very film noir feel. It's got a very if you've watched the film Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman back in the day, this has some definite vibes to
it takes
that
a
kind
lot of
thriller
inspiration.
film.
It takes a lot of inspiration. I know Matt Reeves mentioned that he took a lot of inspiration from Seven and Martin Scorsese films when he built the ecosystem of that, like grittiness, the darkly stuff, the mob inspiration within this film, which grounded it.
That, and it pulled from several very kind of dark comic stories. There's The Long Halloween,
Batman Year One,
The Court of Owls. There's a lot of influences in this, which makes for a very interesting story. And I think, it uses the characters and the location in a way we haven't seen in a live action film. Now, keep in mind, this is a 3-hour adventure.
3 hours indeed,
And
people.
if you're going in thinking you're going to be watching some Avengers level craziness, it ain't happening. This is very much down to earth, street level type things. We have a young Batman who's only been in the city for about 2 years, so he's still carving out his niche in there. But unlike previous ones, he's not as in the shadows as other ones. Like, think about it. When we look at like Keaton's Batman and some of the others, there's not a lot of conversation with the local law enforcement or other people. It's very much him running solo for a lot of things. Yet in this one, while he's still running solo, he's not hiding from the police. So I think that's a very interesting twist.
Yep.
One of many in the way they tell this particular story.
So one of the big things started off with bullet one is, as we mentioned, the art of storytelling, building the story. So we mentioned adding the grittiness, the film noir detective infusion with the Batman lore, and as you just mentioned, is the characterization of Batman. So you have him in 2 years. He's still trying to figure himself out. He's driven by a lot of anger and emotion. His tagline is vengeance, which is Batman's tagline, but you can tell he's rawness. His interaction with the cops and the world is very uneasy. So when he shows up on the scene, the cops really can't trust him, and the only connection he has is because Jim Gordon trusts him. And the movie begins by one specific death, which is the death of the mayor. And it leads into another series of murders, which are being done by the Riddler. So through this, the art of the storytelling of the detective elements, it helps build that characterization of Batman and reinforces what I called in my review, it's an iconography of the ramifications of a symbol. So he wants to be vengeance. He wants to stand for certain things, but it's also leading to certain inspirations in the wrong way.
Oh yeah, they're taken another way. I think there's a definite moment, and you can definitely see growth in the character.
Yep.
Where at the beginning, where it's like the whole thing where he's like, "I'm vengeance," and then
he says it a few times.
And then at a critical point in the story, he hears that again, and you can see him stop and pause.
Yep.
And then start to question his motivation. I mean, he's not going to question he's doing this to why he's doing this, but the message he wants to convey is different. And I like how this one is definitely plays into more of the spookiness of Batman in the streets and criminals, and they have taken the risk if they do something silly or when they do something stupid, because they don't know.
Oh yeah, they don't.
And I mean, it's got some really cool moments, but it's definitely, there's not the gadget tree in this, because I mean, when you talk Batman, you talk gadgets.
Yep, he has a few gadgets, but they are grounded with a lot of realism, even with the technological parts and technological ones like the contacts.
Yeah.
it still is relative and believable.
Yeah, and it's not over. It's not over the top. It's a lot of this is very practical.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things is you can definitely tell there's a lot of practical effect, not a lot of CGI
Yeah.
effect.
Especially the car chase scene, like the one that you see in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was straight practical. Matt Reeves in an interview said that was a one shot in the moment because they weren't going to be able to do it a second time. So all of that was practical. But as you mentioned, the mobs and all the situation, another great thing about this movie in particular for me is the world of Gotham. They build out and flesh out a gritty, believable world, and it gives room for all the rest of the interaction, and Batman's just interacting with the world as he's revealing all the clues and revealing all the corruption and conspiracy that might and might not link to his family, but a lot of other groups in Gotham. It helps makes this world a more uneasy place. There's no good or bad. It's just a matter of consequences and decisions.
Yeah, that's a very nice gray area, and very. I think probably one of the highlights of the story is the way they depicted Gotham.
Yeah, that's what I loved about this movie.
His conflict within Gotham.
Yeah, it's something where he wants to protect, but at the same time, what is worth to protecting in this city when there's so much just backstabbing and so much uneasy and morality left at the wayside, which allows you to lead into all the ancillary characters that you see throughout the film. Penguin.
Speaking of those, let's talk about Penguin. Yeah. Let's talk about Carmine Falcone. Let's talk about Selena Kyle. Selena Kyle is probably one of the bigger elements, and I gotta say, I like this Catwoman.
I love it. I love it. It actually, you have a gravitas to her backstory because it's so heartbroken, and she's caught up in the world of Gotham. She's a creation of Gotham, as well as Penguin that's part of the mob, and Carmine Falcone, who's controlling the webs without giving away. And then the Riddler shows up on the scene because he's a product of this world. So you see all these like shades of gray in a way of Gotham and how it leads characters down certain paths. Mm-hmm. I would say that Selena Kyle is the heart of the story. If you see the film, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the characters just make you feel that decisions aren't left to goodness. It's just a matter of survival.
That, and it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
What one person says or does versus another.
Yeah.
Depending on the context or the motivations, and there's a lot of elements in there, and I think that adds a nice layering of it as well, because it's definitely a very grittier story than previous one.
Yeah, it's a lot grittier, and it's like you said, it's a long film, but this is the one time where even if I felt there might be parts where they could have cut out, you never feel the length. You're always engrossed in the detective story and all the little intricate layers that he's revealing that you want to know more. Mm-hmm. You want to know, what is this leading to? What is the aftermath of certain choices and setups that the Riddler has left?
I gotta say, one of the things I like about this, and this was something a friend of mine was very one of his criticisms before the film came out, and it was a criticism and a hope, and that is not another scene of the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. And they did a good job of not reproducing that whole scene. They reference it, and they tell it in other ways.
Yeah.
But it isn't as in your face as previous Batman films put it.
That is true. It's the subtlety of conversation. When you see certain interactions between Batman or Bruce Wayne, especially with a kid, not going to mention what or why, but if you see it, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Physical mannerism and the actualization of the criminal world, there is this ecosystem of being able to explain with visual cues and just general interactions, which this is the kind of film that I like because it doesn't just force feed you the dialogue or force feed you the exposition. It gives you don't think of your audience as dumb that need to be force fed. You think your audience is smart enough to figure out things, and they are.
And I like how this one is more of a visual storyteller. Yeah. There are scenes and sequences that are, you could freeze frame that and make it a poster and it would.
Yeah, everything is built with just the physical aspects of the situation. You don't need to be told something bad's going to happen or something good's going to happen or this is a scene of hope. It's just there if you can read the tea leaves, basically.
Yeah, and I'd say it's definitely on par with the Nolan trilogy, with some of the elements and the fact, no, even the Nolan trilogy is a darker, more grounded telling of Batman and in that story. This one seems to take that a little bit into a little bit different place.
And it levels the playing field on just being a street style kind of Batman.
Yeah, I like, and I think if the film it feels like it was intended to be a psychological thriller, kind of like some of the ones we talked about in the past. Scorsese films, Seven, some of the other ones.
There's a little bit of Saw in there with some of those traps.
Definitely some Saw. I mean, it was like I'm sitting there. It's like, all right, am I watching a horror movie or am I watching a thriller movie? But it feels, but it didn't.
Like even
that's what it felt like. That was the first thought. It wasn't I'm watching a superhero movie. No. It wasn't I'm watching a comic book movie. It wasn't I'm watching a Batman movie. It's I'm watching this kind of movie.
It's that art of storytelling.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the best. I think that's where we're getting some of the best stuff when it comes to the superhero and the comic book genre, is the fact that we're using the characters and telling a story with those characters in the story.
That's what we always go back. It's like you can make everything great if you come back to the story. If the story is written well, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, and this one it does really nice, and it has some really great moments and some kind of cool foreshadowing for the future. It'll be very interesting to see if they continue this as a sequel.
Yep. Well, with what it made, I assume there's going to be a sequel.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's talk about what.
Yeah, we'll leave that.
I mean,
yeah.
Let's talk about it. Domestic box office, worldwide box office. It came in within about 50 million of what Spider-Man No Way Home did in its opening weekend.
Well, yes and no. I know it made 138 on the weekend. Domestic. Spider-Man made 270.
And then globally. So
globally.
Okay, a little bit more. But either way, it is the second best opening in this pandemic environment, which is what everybody's measuring against. We're not measuring 2019 type film releases. We're looking at, okay, since 2020 till now, Spider-Man No Way Home and the Batman.
Oh yeah. So, everybody's loving the Batman. And just to wrap it up for me, I think this the Batman, it goes beyond just being just a comic book motif and builds upon a strong cinematic experience because of that film noir, the characterization, and just building a story with the lore. So other than maybe a couple things that might be in nitpicks, overall it's a great film. 4.5 out of 5 for me. It will be in my top 10 probably by the end of the year.
Yep. I'm solid with a 4.5 for this. There isn't really anything I can't knock about the film. I like this style of I like this style of film. I like telling a story.
This kind of storytelling.
Uses the characters, but it doesn't rely on the characters.
It doesn't rely on cliches or gimmicks to make something pop out at you. It lets the story dictate what you're gonna get.
I mean, this feels like the story could add a totally different cast.
Yeah.
And it still would have been a good film. But we added Batman and comic and DC and comic characters, and this became a better film.
Oh yeah. Definitely check it out if you're a fan of any of that stuff, people.
So yeah, go to ryreviews.com to read the review, and be sure to give it a like so that Ryan knows that you read it, and you appreciate his take on the film industry.
Yeah. Check it out.
Back on up.
So, moving right along, we are moving on to more Batman topics, people. This is a Batman show. So what we got next on deck about Batman?
I don't know. You're the one who put the notes together. I'm just skimming through.
Okay.
So you decide what we're going to talk about.
All right. So since this is Batman theme, I did tailor this outline, help out my compadre. So since we've been familiar with Batman on the film, we also have been familiar with Batman in TV. And there's been a lot of renditions with Batman in the television world. And
hands down, BTS.
Yeah, BTS, Batman the Animated Series, is really well, I know about the Adam West stuff and everything, but I grew up on is BTS.
Yeah,
Batman
BTS.
Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah,
So,
BTS is really good, and it took a lot of inspirations from some of those darker stories,
yeah,
and definitely the 1989 Batman,
yeah.
and that style. And it was also, it got away with some much more adult storytelling
Yeah.
than what you'd expect from a kid's cartoon.
Yeah, especially in the 90s, they had a lot of great comic book renditions on the TV screen, Batman being one of them. And the one great thing about the animated series, at least I can pinpoint it, is that it did flesh out a lot of the characters' backstories, a lot of the villain rogue backstories, but also it brought us...
too.
Yeah, and it also brought us Harley Quinn.
Yes.
Harley Quinn was introduced in the animated series before jumping into the rest of the mediums.
She was introduced to be, a partner for Joker in the animated series. She was so well received that she ended up being imported into the comic books and made a part of that. And she has gone through a roller coaster story. And now she's got three different live action film stories, most of which played by Margot Robbie, which she does a really good job.
She does a really great job. Speaking of Harley Quinn, there is that animated show on HBO Max, which everybody tells me to watch because it's really good, so I have to check it out.
I've seen some bits and pieces. It definitely is interesting, and the funny thing is the fact that it's voiced by Penny.
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory.
I heard that too. Like every single person, I've not heard one negative about that show.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun show from what I heard.
So, any other TV shows or memories for you? You've been in the Batman world a little bit longer than me.
I liked, there was obviously BTS is good, Batman Beyond, but I also really enjoyed The Batman, which was early 2000s cartoon for Batman. It was again going back to more of him at the beginning of being Batman. But it was told with more modern technology, and it had a very interesting art style. Like, it also had a really different take on Joker, where instead of him being the clown we see in BTS and the mobster style that he was modeled after Jack Nicholson's interpretation, this one was more of the psychopath, kind of goofy, crazy one with the big teeth, with the big hair and the big teeth.
Okay.
But it was later in the series as he started wearing the more recognizable outfit. But his early run where he's in the straitjacket and just causing mischief was a lot of fun. I liked it had some really good stories, but I think and toward the end of it, it was let's force feed on all the Justice League stuff. And it was like, okay, that's a little heavy-handed. But that was a good one. There was another animated one shortly after that, which was Fear the Batman, which had a very short run, only lasted a season, and then it was canceled. And it was one of the more computer-generated film versions. Then there's, of course, Batman Brave and the Bold, which went for a hell of a long time, comparatively. And that one was stylized more in like the 60s style, a lot brighter color palette, a lot more of the kind of dialogue you got from the early 60s Batman stuff. Yeah. Wasn't as dark.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of... I just logged in HBO Max just to bring up some, just to jog my memory. But one thing that came, and a lot of people consider it probably the best Batman film to date still, is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which came as a product of the animated series.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was continuing. Some of the characters continued on to other animated properties, and then back into the comics, where they fleshed out more of the characters there. It was nice, and it was another origin story for Joker.
Yeah,
that's another thing I liked about the Batman film. It's like we didn't get beaten down with Joker.
Yeah, we did not. They're not going to spoil anything, so I'm just not going to say anything. But yeah, it's great that they are highlighting other villains, even if they've been used before in a way. At least they're making them more prominent, and I hope going forward with any of the series that they're doing, because they're doing 2 series on HBO Max and the film, that they highlight. I think what I would like to see is that they bring forward some villains that haven't had the limelight in the films. Me personally, I would like to see the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter.
Good interpretation of him. That might be a little rough,
but Mad Hatter would work in this world. I know one that Matt Reeves says that he has a liking to is he sees it as a challenge to make Mr. Freeze grounded in his series, but he says he can find a way. So it'd be interesting to see if he can redeem Mr. Freeze in his own way. But me personally, I would love to see the Mad Hatter in this as the main villain. We've seen him in the Gotham show, but like a prominent villain, that would be an interesting take on him.
Yeah, the Gotham TV show, that was another good one. Live action.
And another thing it would be cool to see is the Court of Owls, because there was a lot of hints.
That's apparent.
There's a lot of hints.
Speaking of Court of Owls, Gotham Knights is got a release date. Finally.
That's the game.
That's the game. Gotham Knights is a game where you're the story is you're playing one of 4 of the Bat family: Red Hood, Tim Drake, Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl.
Yep.
And
is it getting released in 2029? That was a joke.
No, I think it's the end of March.
Is the end of this month? I'll look it up.
I think I saw it was like 2022. So yeah. We're going to have that coming on. I believe you're here, May. I never doubted you. But yeah, I saw there was a blur from IGN that Gotham Knights has a release date, which will be fun. And I remember from the initial teaser that was going to have some elements related to Court of Owls. But the whole premise of that story is Batman has...
October 25th.
Oh, October. So yeah.
But speaking of video games, that's a good way into our gaming world for Batman.
Nice.
So good way. I love that, Scuba.
All right.
So speaking of video games, I did go find a list on Game Radar, which gave the best Batman games, and I thought it would be a good list to look at, but also a good way, a segue into our personal favorites.
So let me guess: Arkham City and Arkham Asylum are in that top 5.
I haven't looked at the list yet, so I'm going to be surprised at you. So what they have at number 7 is Batman Arkham Origins.
Okay, I can buy that one.
I never played it, but it is there. And Batman Arkham Origins Gate. So that's a Nintendo DS, 3DS game. But Arkham Origins is number 6, which was a spin-off from the Arkham series, right? Am I right?
It was a different studio did that one, and that whole premise was Black Mask had put a bounty on Batman's head on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So the whole rogues gallery of assassins came in, and Batman had to try and figure out what was going on. But it has elements where it does tie into what will happen in Arkham Asylum.
Okay.
It's set
before
Arkham Asylum.
Okay. All right. Never played it. I heard it was all right. Number 5, they have Batman Arkham VR. So they did make a VR Batman game, which I heard was actually pretty good. So if you ever got a hold of that, I think it'd be cool to play as Batman, in a VR situation.
We'll have to see. I mean, that one Rocksteady, and then
Telltale series is
all the Telltale games are fun.
Yeah,
I mean, because that's the choose your own adventure type of stylized.
Yeah, I never played them, but if you're a fan of Telltale games or choose your own adventures, Batman is one of the top ones. Arkham Knight is number 3, which I wouldn't argue. It actually is my least favorite of the trilogy, so I would put it down below the other 2. So my guess is that they have Arkham City as number 2,
and number 1 is
Arkham Asylum, which I would flip those, because my personal favorite of the Batman games is Arkham City, just because not only I'm at Arkham Asylum, you're in the asylum and you're working your way through that, so it's a very much a linear-ish kind of game, more in a Tomb Raider aspect. But there was something about Arkham City which it fleshed out a lot of the villains, and you got to fight the who's who of the top rogues gallery of Batman villains,
and some mysteries from lower tier ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I I liked Arkham Asylum.
Yep.
I played more of that than I
Yep.
did Arkham City. I haven't done Arkham Knight yet.
Arkham Knight is, I would just call it a color palette swap of Arkham City, just because it pretty much plays the same way. It's just the story is not as strong.
It relies so heavily on the driving mechanic.
Yeah, a lot of people hate that driving mechanic, so that brought it down.
I mean, half the puzzles for Riddler require you to drive.
Yeah, which sucked. Like, where Arkham City, you felt you were Batman. You also got to play as Catwoman, but and the story was better in Arkham City, just because even though Joker's used a lot, there was a very strong story-driven element with the Joker in the second one. And another thing that hurt Arkham Knights is, spoiler alert, the game's been out forever, Joker dies at the end of Arkham City. So the whole time in Arkham Knight, you're being haunted by the spirit of Joker. So instead of like having like a physical manifestation, it's more of a mental thing. But it really doesn't add anything to it. They just found a way to, cram in Joker because he's the Joker. But
I mean, yeah, I've seen the story. I know how the story plays out. I think it has a very nice end.
Yeah, it has an okay end, but I think that City just had more layers to it.
Yeah, City had a lot more layers to it.
Yeah.
Arkham Knight was a city under siege, but again, the driving mechanic really turned me off because there's so much you have to do.
I hated the driving. I hated the driving mechanic. I was just like, let me go fly through the city and beat the crap out of villains. Nope, got to get in my tank.
Yeah, you got to drive the car around. I mean, so many missions have to deal with that. It's just. But
I am looking forward to Gotham Knight because they're actually, letting you play as the supporting characters of Batman.
Well, yeah, because supposedly in this story with that one, Batman is gone. He apparently has died or something.
Yeah, he's dead.
So it's like, all right, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, so
I think, it's not Tim Drake. I think it's Damian Wayne Robin.
I know it's a Red Robin. Is it Red Robin? I know it's a Red Hood, Nightwing, Batgirl.
Yeah, but I think
Robin.
I think it's Damian Wayne as Robin.
That's while you keep talking, I'll look it up.
So yeah, but the Arkham games, you gotta admit that combat mechanic in the Arkham game is great, and it's inspired a lot of other games.
Yeah. So and that's just my personal favorite is Arkham City, even though it had this one bug in the game, and everybody that played this game knew that this bug was there for a little bit on the 360. You'll play the game, and then at some point your save would just delete. And that happened to me when I got to the Mr. Freeze fight, and I was so mad that I did not play the Arkham City on 360. Like they had a bug where it would delete your save. So I had to. I never. You heard about speed running. I sped run through that series of events just to get to the point where I was with Mr. Freeze.
I do remember the Freeze fight in Arkham City.
That was the best fight. That was one of my favorite fights because you had to change the way you fought him because he would adapt to your sneaking abilities.
He would have, each time you took him down, you had to come up. You couldn't do the same thing twice.
Yep.
Which we all know as gamers is like once you get that dialed in, that trick.
Yep.
You use that, and it just goes with everybody.
Yep.
Whereas with him and some of the others, it's okay. Now we've got to change our tactics.
Yeah. So I just a couple seconds. I want to swing back to our TV segment just real quick. A show that I did enjoy, even though it had a lot of flaws, was the Gotham series. Even though it wasn't a Batman series, but it took place in Gotham, and it did showcase a lot of the rogue gallery, which I appreciated. So I just wanted to mention that
origins and stuff, which some of them don't quite line up right.
Yeah, it doesn't, but it was cool to see all the rogue gallery on display. But go ahead. So it's Dick Grayson Nightwing, Barbara Gordon Batgirl, Tim Drake Robin.
Oh, okay.
And Jason Todd Red Hood. So not Damian Wayne.
Oh, the four.
And during the game, they said you're going to fight several supervillains, including the Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, and Penguin. And then Alfred will be your supporting character and police captain Renee Montoya. So there you go. That's just a little tidbits for the game.
Okay.
But yep. So moving on with the Batman theme, you mid mention about how Batman has based on that on one chart you saw 23 films.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us into the general topic, which we had to talk about it when we were driving, about the saturation of a product. And this focus is on Batman.
Yeah, I don't think we can do both sides of this conversation without. Well, as much as we love the film, we also have to keep into account there are some people who are not going to be fans of the film.
Yeah, which is fine. I respect all opinions. A movie I like, you might not like. We have that a lot of times. Most of the time, we like and dislike the same film, but there's always a one way. But Batman, even though it's right in 80-90% on both critics and fans, there's still that 10% that didn't like it.
Yeah, and a friend of mine who watched it thought it was too long. It was. Boring.
I will give it that. It was too long. But it is what it is.
I didn't mind the 3-hour time frame. I thought it was great, especially if you waited till the end credit, to the scene at the end of the credits, which I thought was incredible.
I walked out because I was done at 3 hours.
It was great.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the after show.
But the saturation of a product.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, because again, it's like, okay, we're talking Batman, and what do they do in almost every Batman movie? Is they have some reference to the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Yep.
Every single one. And it's like, okay, can we move on from that?
It's like the Uncle Ben situation.
Yeah, which is why the Tom Holland stuff is good, because we're not retreading Uncle Ben. You drop in to Spider-Man after he's got his powers, after Ben has died.
Yeah. Or supposedly, I don't think they ever mention him, but we're assuming.
Yeah, they avoided the whole thing, just like they avoided the whole "with great power comes great responsibility." But with the Batman films, they always seem to have
Thomas, Martha Wayne, the Broken Pearls. Yeah,
they always seem to have that in some way, shape, or form, and it's nice that they didn't have that. Yeah. But again, we're coming off. We just had a version of Batman played by Ben Affleck less than 10 years ago.
Yep, and then they're retreading it, and this leads into one of the big things is that, are we getting too much Batman? Because, I had to change the note really quick because of a quick drop that we read right before, but we're getting 4 Batmans between 2022 and 2023. So we're getting the Batman, Robert Pattinson. We're getting Super Pets Batman with Keanu as the voice. And then in The Flash, which just got moved to next year, Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are going to be playing Batman. It is dealing with a multiversal aspect, but still, that's 4 Batmans in less than 2 years, pretty much. So too much confusion, too much Batman.
Yeah. So I mean, that could be a good argument.
So
it's like, we're having too much.
Yeah, too much.
That's my turn off.
Yeah.
We saw that with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars does best when there's more time between films. Yeah. When Disney first took over the IP and decided every year we're going to release a film, they saw the numbers just tank. Other reasons contributing, but a good one is the fact that, people are not going to spend the money to see this on an annualized basis.
And I think Warner Brothers, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
My last dig was going to be, the only thing that works on an annualized release is Call of Duty.
Yeah. Well, even they are not releasing one this year, so they're moving off of that. So they're releasing one next year, so they're skipping a year. But point taken. Point taken.
I mean, annualized releases doesn't work unless it's Call of Duty.
Unless it's a gun in your hand and shooting 100 other people. But
again, Call of Duty, Battlefield.
But this could be
properties work well by rinse and repeat every year. Assassin's Creed tried it.
It kind of failed.
It failed, so they dialed it back.
Rebuilt
Call of Duty works.
Yeah.
But anyways,
but that's probably, speaking of too much, that's probably why I read that news article that dropped right before we went on, how they moved the Flash out of 2022, because if they didn't, we would have had 4 Batmans this year. So they probably saw the tea leaves and psych. They don't want to cause too much confusion.
Remember, what else is coming out in December this year?
Avatar.
So, smart money is we're not going to put anything to compete and think we're going to make any kind of return on investment.
But another, which I mentioned to you reading that article, which is on Screen Rant, is that they moved The Flash to June 23, 2023, which, fun fact, is the same date that the 1989 Batman was released, which starred Michael Keaton, who is also going to be starring in The Flash. So that's an interesting pick. But keep moving on saturation. is how much is too much, because not only are we getting the Batman, but Matt Reeves is developing this universe, which is going to lead into probably another sequel with how much money it made, but also they're going to release 2 series within this world on HBO Max. So is it too much versus is there a good story to tell? So one of the series is going to be focusing on Arkham Asylum, and if you saw the third act, you can see where they could be leading in. And the other one is the Penguin series, starring Colin Farrell, which he was amazing as Penguin, by the way. But is it too much, or if there's a good story to tell, is it worth telling? I could say it could be a mixture of both, because James Gunn, who did the Suicide Squad last year, came out with Peacemaker this year, which actually got a lot of praise and actually brought a lot of business for HBO Max, but also on top of that, it was a great show. So I think it's somewhere in the middle. Even if you're creating, even if it feels like it's saturation with the same product over and over, these series aren't technically focusing on Batman. It's focused on the world.
Yeah, and I think if they tell a story, if they're telling stories from that perspective, yeah. And as long as we're not telling we're not forcing stories. Like, because how many times have we seen a TV series run longer than it could have or should have because they just wanted to keep cranking stuff out for whatever motivations?
Yeah.
Right?
That 70s show, that's personally, they jumped the shark after season 7. Some people would say the Big Bang Theory went too long. Friends.
How I Met Your Mother went a little long.
Yeah.
Some of those. Not everybody is going to pull off 14 seasons like Supernatural, where they reinvent themselves 3 times in the process.
Yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic, but even though they are building. Oh, what the heck is he talking about?
What'd you break?
I was reading a comment by one of our people in the chat, but anyways. I think it's a dancing thread, because even if you are using material from the movie or from the lore, this is in the same vein as the movie we just watched. It's a movie that's a detective film noir story with elements of Batman. So these shows are going to be focusing on certain different aspects of the lore, but are building their own story. With Penguin, it's going to watch the rise of Penguin through the crime syndicate. And if you've seen the end of the movie, you'll know why. And then the Arkham series is going to be focusing on the plethora of characters in Arkham Asylum, which this is my hope that they do that as an anthology series. That way, each episode is focused on a single character. Okay. That's just me speaking a hope into fruition. That is my hope, because I think that would work, especially if you know anything about Arkham Asylum. They have a plethora of people in there, regardless of which medium you're focused on. But I think another thing with is it too much saturation of the same product? I think one that would be going against that is bankability. So just to make iteration, as you mentioned, the Batman domestic made 134 million domestically, and in total so far it's 155 domestic plus 124, which makes it 279 million worldwide today.
Okay.
So it's approaching 3, leading into the second weekend. Not to mention, it hasn't released in China, which is the second largest box office outside of North America. So if you add those numbers on top of whatever's going to happen, it's bankable.
Plus, we have to acknowledge the fact that they did not release it in Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, not yet.
So there's some market share that Spider-Man No Way Home had and some other recent films had that this one's not going to have. So how much of an impact? That'll be a nice thing to ponder as well.
Yeah. And another thing, speaking of, is it too much saturation? Let's go back to the last big series, the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy.
Okay.
So based on these are based on numbers from the numbers.com, which track the numbers of the movie gross in all 3 films. So all 3 films combined, which is Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, have made a total of 2,439,702,020 in change.
Isn't that like opening weekend for Avengers Endgame?
Yeah, but hey, that's a different echelon. But speaking of saturation of a comic book genre, it's not really. If it's bankable, which the numbers show, Batman is bankable. As long as you can reinvent the wheel,
it's a good story.
Yeah, as long as you can tell a good story, reinvent the wheel and all that, it's worth doing.
All right, so I mean, let's talk about that whole thing with Super Pets, because this is a movie nobody wanted.
That's you take this lead, and I'll follow you.
I mean, I just gotta. I mean, we're gonna have a film about the superheroes' pets. Crypto for Superman, Ace for Batman, and several others. And this is going to be a life. What is this? The Secret Life of Pets superhero edition. Kind of deal. And what I think probably is interesting is the fact that we get Keanu Reeves to voice Batman.
That is funny. That is
something about that. It seems like I never would picture him. As a Batman.
So it's just funny because you have Keanu Reeves voicing Batman, which is just hilarious on top of that. Then John Krasinski is voicing Superman.
John Krasinski, what's he done?
John Krasinski, he's the Quiet Place guy.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Now.
Dang it! What am I forgetting? The show on Prime. Jack Ryan.
Plus he did. Okay.
But it's interesting to see, like, they got Keanu Reeves to voice Bruce Wayne. I'm thinking, this is just a thought of mine, that, hey, they gave him, hey, you can do another Matrix if you do Super Pets for us. And he's like, okay. Yeah, why not? I'll do the voice of Batman, you know. And just to add a little tidbit, Dwayne Johnson is Crypto and Kevin Hart is Ace the Bat Dog. So they're always a good pairing. Them together is always a good pairing. I will say that.
Okay.
I will say that. Speaking of Kevin Hart, he's going to be doing a comedy show at Norfolk Scope this year. So might get tickets. Might get tickets because Angelica likes Kevin Hart, and it might be cool to see him. So that's just an off the shoot. But yep. And last but not least, a couple odds and ends Batman inspired.
Oh yeah. Well, you talk. Yeah.
Yep. So first one.
Oh yeah, I know about both of these.
Okay, so first one, everybody went to see Batman. Not just everybody, but animals too, especially bats.
Apparently, in a theater, during a showing of Batman, a live bat had gotten into the theater, was released in the theater. Either way, it was a pet friendly show.
Yeah, it was pet friendly. So not only did you get to watch the Batman, but you got to watch Batman with a bat. And not to mention, a good way of them promoting the Batman, Little Caesars gives you an opportunity to order the Batman in pizza.
Yeah, well, this one. So a while back, Little Caesars came up with this calzone pizza concept, where like where it's like the parts of the pizza were wrapped up like a calzone. The rest of it was like a traditional pizza. All they did was shape it to where it looks like the bat symbol.
Yeah, so do you want vengeance with the side of cheese? You can from Little Caesars.
Pepperoni is good. It wouldn't last long, but yeah.
Yep. And the cool thing with the movie is that they put out a link where you can actually create your own name with the Batman logo. So
yeah. Oh, don't forget, there's also the website.
Yeah, don't forget.
Watch the movie, pay attention to the website, and you can actually go there and answer Batman trivia, which is very answer riddles and get some interesting stuff. There's a couple of theories that it is going to relate to what the sequel of the film is going to be. Who the villain in the sequel will be. So
Craig is funny. He says it's not as good as Sal's, the Batman pizza. I would say you're right. Sal's is pretty good.
Sal's is good. I haven't done that in so long. Then again, I don't go to the office to work.
My office is a laptop at home. So
Same
yay!
Here. Same place I'm sitting right now is where I work and stream, all those fun things.
Not same place, but in the same kind of situation.
Alrighty. Well, I think with that, we're ready to roll on over to our after show. So thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to hit the like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you're new here, hit the subscribe, hit the bell notification to see when future videos come out. A shout out and a thank you to Sirenscape for the
Shout
background
out.
music and sound bites. Thank you to the individual who created created that little Batman logo.
That was
creator.
awesome. It was great.
It's up on GitHub. He claims no ownership, but it was a fun little thing to kind of code and build. So we got to give credit there.
The Batman.
If you want to support the studio, best thing you can do is share out this video and tell your friends to check us out. Feel free to leave some feedback and comments below. Feed the YouTube algorithm as best you can. But if you want to do more, you can head on over to patreon.com/scuba studio. There you can consider being a patron. You get some behind the scenes and some info from us, as well as our weekly after show, which is a live stream we do for Patreon members.
Yes,
over
after
there.
show for you guys.
If you're a Patreon member, hopefully we'll see you over there for that. If not, we'll see y'all next week for our regular shenanigans. If you like this theme type of episode, please leave a comment, reach out, let us know on social media. See if, kind of encourage us to do some more of those. We're trying to change it up. 116 episodes in, we got to keep it fresh, keep it clean.
Maybe, no, I'll save that mystery for next show.
Some apple bottom and boots with fur. I mean, who knows? Anyways.
To the window. Goodbye, y'all.
Have a good
Peace.
week, everybody. See y'all next time. Bye-bye.
To the wall.